Good morning, everybody. Not sure why I'm round of applause for everybody. I'm not sure why. But good morning, everybody. Friday, December 5th, 8 a.m. on the dot. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for being a part of the Sliwa show here on Hoops Talk. We got a fun show today. We got a good show lined up today. How can we not? A lot of good stuff going on around the NBA and Lakers basketball. We got a great show lined up. Thank you very much for hanging out. We got a busy show today, too. Got a guest. You guys know what happens. When I get a guest, it's like I feel like I got to, got to get things rolling. Got to get things going. 1 full hour of talking Lakers and NBA basketball. 1 full hour of hanging out with you. Cheers to you, whatever you're drinking this morning. I got coffee and I got tea, by the way. I got a little bit of everything here. Caffeined up. I'm ready to go. Busy show today, and obviously a lot of it's going to be focused on how just phenomenal of a game last night was. Lakers got the Celtics coming up tonight. So many kind of storylines from yesterday's game, so we're going to hit on it all. We're in no rush today. Not a real rush, nothing like that. We'll be hanging out. We'll go as long as we need to go. So thank you for being here, and let me give everyone a quick rundown what we got going on for the show. Shout out to everybody that's been a part of the show in the post game or part of the show in the morning. I greatly do appreciate it. You guys are definitely helping from a numbers perspective and just, obviously helping grow the channel. So I appreciate everybody doing that. Memberships are growing. Views are growing. So shout out to everybody that's been consistent on the channel and been hanging out. If you haven't been consistent, then I'm not talking to you. Okay? I'm only talking to the real ones here. Okay? Talking to everybody. All right, let me give everyone a quick rundown what we got going on for the show, and then we'll get things started. So obviously an impressive win last night in Toronto. I think to me it was more about just getting a win in Toronto. It was how they played, the style they played in, obviously understanding the fact that Luka Doncic wasn't there. There's a lot of variables to why yesterday stood out to me. Can I get these levels right? Is that possible? There's a lot of reasons why that game was impressive to me last night. So obviously we'll spend a lot of time talking about that. And just I thought last night was a game that kind of defines who the Lakers are, what they've been all season. And certainly that game against the Phoenix Suns was not one of those games. Austin Reaves continues to be just an incredible basketball player for the Lakers this season and continues to obviously kind of take his game to another level, it seems like, on a night in, night out basis. He was amazing yesterday. I think there's a real conversation about him being an all-star this year. So obviously that means two things. Number one, that means his game is phenomenal. And number two, it means boy's about to get paid. Oh my gosh, Austin Reaves about to get paid. Austin Reaves. I was listening this morning, NBA Sirius XM, and they brought something up in Reaves that I think will give you some really good perspective of just how great Reaves has been. We'll hit on that. Really excited to have my guest on a little bit later today, Bobby Marks of ESPN. Kind of a cool, give you guys just a cool little background here. Bobby Marks, when I was at ESPN for, obviously a number of years, I do my Lakers talk show and everything else. Bobby Marks was always kind of great with his time, nice with his time. And then, still kind of independently now doing my own thing. He still makes time. I mean, you guys go watch ESPN. Bobby Marks is on all the time. So very appreciative of him to come on the channel, come on the show. He's going to join us at about 8:15. So show some love to Bobby Marks because he's definitely shown some love to the channel. LeBron's streak ends. So we know that the streak is over in regards to LeBron, 1,297 straight games that he scores in double digits. How it ended, the quote that he had after the game, why I think it's a good thing that it ended. If I'll help make sense to that. I think this is actually a good thing that the streak ended, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Lakers Celtics tonight. I mean, you don't really get to enjoy this one for too long because that win that you got against the Raptors last night, you got a really good Celtics team coming up tonight as well. So that's going to be a tough one. We know how great some of those battles are with the Celtics. So that's going to be a fun one. Still not 100%. I mean, they haven't officially ruled Luka out, but I think everybody's just expecting for Luka to be out. And then I got some NBA news, weekend preview in the NFL, college football, some games to keep an eye out for. MLS has the championship game coming up on Saturday as well. And then we're done. So thank you for being here. Solid week from everybody. So appreciate everybody being a part of the show. All right, let me see what we got here. Let me read a couple of the comments. You become unstoppable when you work on things people can't take away from you. Things like your character, habits, mindset, attitude. Ocean Breeze coming in with a solid quote. Celtics are pretty good. Celtics are, yeah, they're listen, if they had Tatum, they'd be one of the favorites coming out of the Eastern Conference. They don't have Tatum, so what are they? They're really well coached. They play hard, and you know they're going to be in the thick of every single game. So they got a tough one tonight against the Celtics. All right, let's see what we got here. Rui was MIA all game, and then he hits the game winner. I'm a fan of what Rui has done all season, and obviously coming through clutch last night was so big for the Lakers. Just you don't want to go to overtime. You got a second of a back-to-back. You felt like you played good enough to win that game. That would have been a devastating loss, if I'm being honest with everybody. Couple more here before we get started. Austin did everything. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. All right, let's get started here. I know we got a lot of people chiming in, want to give their opinion on the game last night and just give their opinion on the Lakers doing what they did last night and now improving their record to 16-5. So let's get started. By the way, just a quick reminder, please subscribe to the channel if you've yet to subscribe to the channel. Okay, so here's what I loved about last night's win. I think if I ask people out there, what do you make of the Lakers' season so far? I think most people are going to say, Al, pretty impressive. 15-5 in the Western Conference and hanging with a lot of these teams, whether it's Denver's record or Houston's record. San Antonio, I would say a little bit of a surprise. I didn't know San Antonio was going to be this good this early. And then we know what the Oklahoma City Thunder are doing. I think most people would say they like the record of the Lakers. But if last night's game reminded me of the Lakers earlier in the season. The reason why I think a lot of Laker fans out there, or maybe just NBA fans that are just monitoring the league and saying to themselves, what teams are fun to watch, what teams play hard, what teams kind of find ways to win or find ways to lose. Last night's game reminded me of earlier in the season when the Lakers were still kind of trying to figure things out. Luka was in and out of the lineup. Reaves had missed a couple of games. A number of different players were in, a number of different players were out. And I thought what made people, I don't know, proud is the right word. I think typically if you're watching a team, you just want to know that there's effort, that they care, they're playing to their ability, and then you kind of take your chances from there. You don't know if they're going to win a game, they're going to lose a game. But I thought early on, the Lakers showed that they're going to fight for 48 minutes. And they're also not going to make excuses no matter what the lineup looks like, no matter some of the players that are out there, whatever the case is. Yesterday, to me, was a little bit more of an indication of what has built the Lakers' foundation through the first quarter of the season. It's not perfect. They're going to fight like hell. Number of players are going to need to step up. You might be missing a star. You need other stars to step up as well. You kind of had a little bit of everything. And it came down to the end. And yes, you can look at Rui hitting a shot in the corner and the Lakers winning the game and saying, okay, well, Lakers won and that's all that matters, which it is all that matters. But I think there were a lot more nuances to the character of the Lakers in last night's game. I said this in the morning show yesterday, if you were listening. I didn't feel good about yesterday's game. Now, did it help the Lakers that Jakob Poeltl didn't play? RJ Barrett didn't play? Sure. Luka's not playing. And you got a young, athletic team with great length. I thought they were going to create a living hell for a guy like Austin Reaves yesterday. Instead, it kind of flipped back to the beginning of the season where they don't make any excuses. J.J. Redick is trying 10, 11 different guys. Nick Smith Jr. is getting some run. Adu Thero is getting some opportunities in yesterday's game. They needed some valuable minutes from Laravia and Ayton and Rui and Jackson Hayes. You can go down the list, and you're hoping LeBron bounces back from the bad game he had against the Phoenix Suns. Yesterday, to me, again, I go back to what I just said. There was a foundation of yesterday that I felt like is a similar foundation that we've watched throughout the season, which is why I've enjoyed watching the Lakers this year. Just from let me even take out the fandom. Let me take out the show, the podcast, all that stuff. I want to watch a good product. And the Lakers so far have been a good product. I respect the way they play. I like how hard they play. Does it happen every night? No, it doesn't. They got ran on Monday against the Phoenix Suns, and we know that, it's not going to happen every single night. But I think it's safe to say that certainly for the Lake Show, they have kind of built this, all right, this is who we are. This is our character, and hopefully we could come out and win, some of these games. And I thought that's what yesterday was indicative of. Now, you also have unbelievable individual performances. You also have, a team that has kind of found ways to stay in games at the end, and they're 7-0 in clutch games. Is that always going to happen? Probably not. But the main reason why the Lakers won last night as well, forget Rui's shot now, forget JJ Redick's coaching, forget 10 guys contributing, forget all that stuff for a quick second. They also have a player that has just been unbelievably incredible to start off this season in Austin Reaves. Reaves is an all-star. Reaves, you can make an argument right now that he's top 15 in the league. That's how good Austin Reaves has been. I'm not going to sit here and try to rank out the entire NBA, but that's how good Austin Reaves has been. Last night he does it again. And I'm watching the game yesterday, and I'm just like, God, how does this guy create so many different looks for himself? Sometimes you have guys. I'll give you guys an example. Last night I was underimpressed with Brandon Ingram. This is just me watching. I was a little surprised. I was like, man, I thought BI would take over the game more. I heard James Worthy saying at halftime, he's like, keep an eye out for BI. Maybe he didn't have a good first half, but he can go for 30 in the second half. And I agree. Brandon Ingram's a really skilled player. Lakers kind of found a way to neutralize BI. And I'm looking at Austin Reaves, and everything Toronto threw at him, he had an answer for. All right, want to play right under my chin and basically pick me up full court or play me 25 feet away from the basket? All right, I'll find a way. Okay, you're going to give me a little bit of space and go under a screen? I'll shoot a 25-footer. Okay, you're going to play overly aggressive on me? Sounds good. I'll get to the free throw line, and I'll shoot 15 free throws and hit 13 of 15 free throws. By the way, you want to double team me? Sounds good. I'll get 10 assists, and I'll find different guys that are open throughout the game, and hopefully some of these guys are going to come through. I mean, getting a chance last night, and I know this is how it's been predominantly for the entire season with Austin Reaves, but every night I see him play, it's like, okay, yeah, but he can't top that game, can he? Or he can't top that game he had in Sacramento or early in the season where he had a couple of those games where Luka was out and he had a 50-piece or a 40-piece, and last night 44 and 10. It's funny because I'll say this and we'll kind of move on from the topic, but Austin Reaves is being mentioned now in conversations and caliber of players that I never thought he'd be mentioned in. I mentioned something on NBA Sirius XM radio this morning, so I'm listening, and they're not trying to make the point of, hey, you can trade Giannis for Austin Reaves. That's not the point they were trying to make. But the point they were trying to make is, imagine if you said in the summer that you were trying to put a trade package together for Giannis and Austin Reaves was that the foundation of that conversation. Everyone would laugh you out of the gym. Now, maybe still people would laugh you out of the gym, but I think the point they were trying to make is, look how good Austin Reaves has been this year and how he's just kind of raised his individual value and obviously his value for this upcoming summer when he does get an opportunity to get a big-time contract. So great win for the Lakers last night against Toronto. Very, very impressive how they got there. And, of course, a lot of this led by Austin Reaves. Okay, I mentioned to you guys we got a guest and very excited to have him on. And He's been a part of the show now a few times, and obviously he goes back to our days on radio. Shout out to Bobby Marks for joining the show. Bobby, good morning.
How we doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing good. No complaints. All is feels like it's a knock on wood. Hopefully, a quiet day here. I said on was it Wednesday when all hell broke loose? Like I had never remembered a December 3rd where there was multiple things going on, and it ended with everyone probably thinking Giannis tore his Achilles that night, and I was like, oh my goodness gracious, make this day end.
I don't take quiet day and Bobby Marks in the same sentence. I don't feel like those link.
It's crazy. Like usually my radar is always on, but post December 15th to the trade deadline, it's higher. And I woke up Wednesday morning at like 6 a.m. and Shelburne had tagged me in a tweet and basically saying, well, Bobby can probably figure it out, find the Clippers finances when he wakes up. And I said, oh, God, please, Kawhi. Has Kawhi not gotten traded? I'm thinking, because usually what happens is, and that's happened before. I remember when Woj was still with us, when Harden got traded to the Clippers. That was like in the middle of the night. And I think I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night and saw that and jumped on my computer and stuff. It's hard. It's hard. We're not on. The one thing I miss so much when I'm out West, I love being on West Coast time because it feels like, your day is extended a little bit more, especially when you can watch games and everything like that. But yeah, we had a busy Wednesday here with Chris Paul, and then certainly with some of the Giannis stuff.
And then you hear me complaining for an 8 p.m. tip-off on the West Coast. I'm like, yeah, I should probably shut up if that's the case. You guys,
that 11 p.m. tip-off.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Especially when there's like an hour gap between when the other games are over and stuff. It's not like there are other games still playing here. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that one out. But it's a good reminder that anytime I'm complaining about a West Coast game, I should probably just appreciate that I get to watch the full game and not have to worry about it. Okay, I want to start off, and it's funny, before we even yesterday's game, and obviously I know we're going to hit on so many different topics. There was a time where I wanted to kind of key in on you and kind of get your gauge on Austin Reaves and what his market would be like in the summer.
Yeah.
And here we are now through almost, you could call it 6 weeks of the regular season, what he's been able to accomplish. Number one, just how surprised are you by his play and how good he's been this year? A top 10 scorer in the NBA, also has the ability to facilitate, so creative on offense, whether it's, and I don't know how much of the game you got to see yesterday, but they're playing the Raptors, and I can hit a 25-footer. I could also get to the basket. I can hit floaters. I can draw fouls and get you into foul trouble. Your thoughts on his game so far, and last night is a perfect example of how he uses everything he's got in his tools.
Well, I think probably when he came out of, he was at Wichita and then Oklahoma, probably more one-dimensional as far as just being labeled a shooter, right? Like that's kind of the thing. I think the biggest thing that impresses me the most with him is his ball handling. The ability to do a lot of different things with that. I think especially when Luka is out, he can play a little bit of everything. He can play point guard for you. You can play off the ball. It's amazing. I've known him when he came out of college because I helped him and his agent, Aaron Riley, do his agent prep. Austin came this summer because we do sports business classroom in Las Vegas, and he talked to our group, and he was standing in a corner with a baseball hat on. I was like, who is this small little guy? He's just very unassuming, right? Mm-hmm. I texted Dave McMenamin probably a month ago when he had a heater going, and I said, just a reminder, he is not Supermax eligible because he only has 4 or 5 years of service or something like that. Because it's funny when he turned down, and rightfully so, it's just more of a business decision, kind of what the maximum he's eligible for in an extension, which was 4 years, $88, $89 million. And that's one of the rules I was hoping that would get changed in the CBA, where you can extend a player based on the percentage of the salary cap So if it was Austin, it would be 25% of the cap. That's not a rule. It's based on the average player salary. His market and what the Lakers are going to be able to, listen, he's got bird rights and you can exceed the cap. I thought it was probably in the low 20s. I think it's probably over 30, I would think, because he shows you that he's not one dimensional, that he can do a lot of different things offensively here. It's a good problem to have. It's funny, the Lakers, we always talk about cap space and all these teams, and they've got probably 3 of the better free agents on their roster when you look at Austin, Rui, and certainly what happens with LeBron, right? Like, that's the reality. And so as I said, it's a good problem to have, and I know he loves it being in LA, and I wouldn't fret that because he didn't sign his extension, there's going to be him looking elsewhere, but there is going to be a market for him based on some of the teams that have a lot of money and everything like that. But God, he has improved significantly when he came into the league and where he is right now.
It's been fun to watch, and he's going to be a name. And it's funny. I think I could tell you this from more Laker circles and from a fan perspective. Whatever conversations were about Austin Reaves following that playoff series against Minnesota to where we sit today, those conversations are kind of done. Now, that doesn't mean that people aren't going to say, hey, let's see what he does postseason. Hey, can Luka and Austin Reaves, that backcourt defensively, obviously, how do you fill in some of the gaps? I think those questions will be there, but he's been incredible. And Lakers are sitting at 16-5. And, obviously, if you're 16-5 in the Western Conference, you're doing something right. You got to have great individual performances. What's been your take on this Lakers team so far? And are you surprised about how quick of a start they got off to? And some of the different players have been in and out of the lineup yesterday, winning without Luka. That's not the first time they've done that. You surprised where they're sitting just based on circumstances?
I am. I mean, I saw them out when I saw you out in West. I think it was that Miami game, and then they had San Antonio that during that little mini stretch there too. I think the biggest surprise is that we knew once in training camp LeBron wasn't going to be ready, and then you had some other injuries with Gabe, and then Luka goes down, Austin's injured, and it's basically kind of I know it's cliche, but it's kind of like that next man up kind of. Rob's done a good job, and JJ's done a really good job kind of plug and play guys. And kind of, now we don't see, Jared Vanderbilt hasn't played that much here because, the role is kind of minimized with LeBron back. I thought the biggest thing for me was just to kind of keep their head above water until LeBron gets back in the West, which is really hard to do here. But they've gotten great contributions across the board. It is surprising where they are. It's funny, the crosstown team, the Clips, I heard Ty Lue say, they were asking about the struggles, and he's like, well, we got, $80 million on our bench. And I'm like thinking, well, there are a lot of teams have the same problem, but are also playing pretty decent basketball here. So I think that's a credit to kind of some of their depth. And it's funny. It's like when I said this about Steph Curry, and in no means do I want to put Austin Reaves in that conversation, but I said, whenever Steph Curry's on the court, you always have a chance. And I think whenever you have Luka or Austin on the court, you always have a chance. Both guys out hurt, but we've seen the brilliance of Luka, and you saw the brilliance of Austin last night. And I think that the storyline would have been today is that, are we seeing the end of LeBron? He only scored 8 points and stuff like that, and it's. No, LeBron made a terrific pass at the end to set up his teammate here, and that's kind of the Rui shot kind of like symbolized kind of where the Lakers are for the first through 21 games.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I agree with you, because I think the Austin Reaves gets doubled. Oh yeah, but he's got 44 points. Austin Reaves just jack it up. No, he throws it to LeBron. LeBron, you got the streak here. You got to get to double digits.
I'm sure he had in the back of his mind where he was with the numbers.
And watching him on Monday against Phoenix, I know he did because he was taking some threes when he had 7 points against the Suns. Let's stay on Bron for a quick second. I think look, we've been saying it for a while, and I'm sure in NBA circles, it's like you can't keep doing what he's doing but I've been saying that for 3 years. So anytime that I've said that about LeBron, I will say this is probably one of the first times where I do see a significant change in his body. His legs do seem like they're a lot heavier than they typically are.
Yeah.
What do you think, we're just watching reality, or do you think that LeBron has only played 5-6 games since he's been back, didn't have a preseason, didn't have a training camp? Which one do you think is more likely in that scenario?
I think it's a little bit of both, and he's come out and said, he hasn't gone through a training camp and he's trying to find his lungs and figure out, himself on the court here. I do think, and it's just not just LeBron, there's a lot of players like this. We get spoiled a little bit because what we see them, how the season ends is what we think what they're going to look like when the next season starts. And I know LeBron got hurt at Minnesota game 5. And that was always a question as far as where he was going to be health-wise, but he's still a guy that averaged, he's still an all-NBA player. And it's the same with I know Chris Paul is not in the same category him, but Chris Paul played 82 games last year with the Spurs. And then we look at him where he was with the Clippers and we're like, wow, there's been a big drop-off. And same with Brook Lopez, who was in Milwaukee and now is with the Clippers, is not getting very minutes here. Klay Thompson's a great example in Dallas. Like, the one thing I wrote about Klay was like his father time caught up to him, and it did. And then he kind of found himself again a little bit here. He's played really well the last couple of games. So I do think it's, yes, I think we've been spoiled how great LeBron's been, but he's going to be 41, right? Coming up soon. And there's a lot of miles there. And I think if anything, the games, him not playing the first month of the season probably helped preserve his body a little bit longer here for the stretch run.
Bobby, looking at the 16-5 record, obviously everybody in the Western Conference is chasing one team. Everybody's chasing the Oklahoma City. It's funny, every time you talk about the West, I almost don't even include OKC. I'm
like Golden State back in the day, right? Like in that stretch.
You're right.
Only one team wanted to make moves to try to challenge them, Houston.
Well, I think that's actually that's where I would kind of angle towards. Here's the problem with the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's not like their window is a 1-year window.
Nope.
They're gonna be around for a while. And it's, if you look at teams like the San Antonio Spurs, you look at some other teams that they can play the long game a little bit as well. You look at the Lakers, how do you think Rob Pelinka approaches the trade deadline? Because I think they got off to a great start.
Yeah.
But I also think it's fair to say you got Denver, you got Houston, San Antonio. You're not even a lock to be the number 2 seed or the second best team in the Western Conference. How do you think they approach it?
Yeah, it's kind of like the 2 timeline approach, right? I think you have what you have right now, which is LeBron, and certainly with Luka and Austin. And then you're also looking kind of like, all right, where are we next, the summer of 26, and where are we the summer of 27 here, where we potentially could have a lot of money to reshape our roster. The summer of 20, and I know it's almost a year and a half from now. The summer of 2027 could be historic. I don't know if we're going to get us back to the old days where free agency was kind of the theme of things as far as players that become available, because there's been so many that have extended. I think it will be interesting and I'm working on some things right now. Like the question, internally with the Lakers is like, does extending Rui make sense, even if you're going to take away cap space for next year? As I said, he's one of the better free agents and everything like that. Sure. I do think, you still have, future first to go out and move if you wanted to do that. And you do have some expiring contracts with Gabe and Maxey. We could put Rui in that conversation here to go out and be a player if you wanted to be here. I think it's a matter of who that person is going to be, right? Like, is it going to be a short-term fix? Is it someone you feel like you're going to be part of the future? roster building is hard. This is really hard these days here. And of course, like, Giannis is in the headlines, and everybody, all 29 teams are probably going to be asking, how does that, how does he fit with us? And if you're the Lakers, I'm sure that will, you would have to have an internal conversation, just because he's one of the best players in the NBA, but he's also a guy making $54 million. And then, what else do you have left of your roster, right? Like, those are like kind of the big thinkings. But I do think you kind of go full steam ahead. I know Oklahoma City is dominant, and we can talk about, all the picks that they have coming and all that stuff here. But I do think, listen, an injury here and an injury there, sure, and they basically kind of come back to the pack and everything like that. But I always remind people too, when they want to get on the trade machine, like, there's only 450 players in the NBA. Like, there's so many restrictions now, as far as, like, even with the Lakers to sign a 15th player, like, hey, when the stuff with Chris happened this week on Wednesday, everybody's like, oh, we would be great in the Lakers. I'm like, well, they can't sign a guy till like January 19th. That's right. Because of the apron and everything like that. So, but I do think, we're going to see a stealth Luka move in the middle of the night in February again. Probably not, but I think Rob will be aggressive here as far as what maybe some of those expiring contracts potentially could be. But then there's the other thing too, is like, I always ask the question, how much value do the players have within your locker room compared to using as a trade asset? Like, we went through it. This was a long time ago in Indiana. I remember Danny Granger got traded to Philly, and it really disrupted. I think Evan Turner went back to Indiana. Like, it disrupted like the internal dynamics of what your locker room is. And you could say, like, hey, Maxi Kleber doesn't play and he's making $11 million, and we'd love to flip him for something else. But he's probably a terrific guy, and he helps maybe some of the younger players, and his personality is rubs off on a lot of guys, and it might be worth it. So you have to think about that also, instead of just kind of what that player can go out and get you.
Yeah, it's a good point. Some of the stuff that we don't see. Final one, and I appreciate the time as always. You mentioned Giannis, so we'll kind of stay with that for a second. I guess kind of a two-part question here. Is there a world that you think the Lakers can make a legitimate offer for Giannis? I'll keep that one there. And then I think the second question would be, how much do you think what happens in Milwaukee is Giannis demanding to go to a specific team, and the Bucks basically saying, look, awesome partnership, awesome marriage, we're going to look out for ourselves, and wherever that ends up taking you, we'll take our chances?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a complicated situation, because I understand John Horst, their GM, trying to do everything possible when you have a generational player on your roster to hang on for dear life, right? Like, I mean, you saw the Lillard wave and stretch, and then they go out and sign Miles Turner, and they haven't,
I think it's the definition of holding on for dear life.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's like, I get it. And unfortunately, like, he's been injured a bunch, and they haven't been good. So like that, like, I would understand a little bit more his frustration if he had been healthy every game, and where they're 5 or 6 games under 500. And he's injured again, and they're probably going to struggle here in a bit here. And I think if you're Milwaukee, you're probably going to look at what's best for your organization. The hard thing is that he could be a free agent in 2027. Sure. It kind of reminds me a lot of Carmelo Anthony in 2010. And I was part of that in New Jersey, where basically he only wanted to go to the Knicks. And we got involved in New Jersey, and it became a bidding war. And he goes to the Knicks here, but he could say, like, the Knicks is the only place I want to go to. But you're looking at what the Knicks have to offer, and it's like, well, they don't have anything at all. So it will be something fascinating to watch. In-season trades, as you know, because you went through it with Luka, are hard. It's hard to incorporate everything as far as putting a franchise level player into a system with 25 games left in the regular season, because the deadline is not the midway point. I think for the Lakers, I think there's certainly challenges as far as where you look at them with draft picks, what's available to trade. I know they do have a bunch of swaps if they want to do that. It would certainly cost you probably Austin Reaves in there. And then as far as what the other expirings are, and you're somewhat top heavy in contracts with Bron and Luka, and then basically kind of everything else. I do think but he might say like, hey, I want to go to Lakers. Like, might be the only team. I think he would have more leverage in the offseason when he's going into the last year of his contract. And he's like, this is the only place I want to go. But, Brian Windhorst said a really good point. He's like, listen, we can go down and say every team is going to call, but he should have a big say in as far as where he's going to want to play, just because he doesn't have 4 years left on his deal with the Bucks.
Be fascinating. I'm sure it will keep you very, very busy and everybody else over there.
Giannis fatigue,
Well, and it's funny. It started in the summer, and I think we all. I don't know how you felt, but I felt like there was this. Hey, maybe this is going to happen in the summer, last summer, and here we are, and it's like nothing's changed, and we'll probably draw this.
I think for him, and I don't want to speak for him, I think he doesn't want to be portrayed as the bad guy in this, where it's he's a guy that's asking to be traded here. I think it's almost like he wanted Milwaukee to come to him and say, hey, listen, this is where we are. I don't think we're going to win a championship. For the best interest of the organization, I think it's better to kind of move off of you, and we'll try to help you get to the right place and try to rebuild here. And that did not happen. It's like the husband and wife who are who filed for divorce but are still living in the same house. It's like eventually it ends, and that's what it is with roster construction. You eventually just max out on as far as where your team is going to go.
It feels like it's just a matter of time. When it happens, we'll have to wait and see. Bobby, I appreciate you coming on a Friday. Always appreciate your time. I'm sure I'll see you at a Lakers game soon. But thank you.
Yeah, I'll see you next week. I'll be out in LA on Sunday, so I think they only have one game against San Antonio on Wednesday, the Cup game, right?
Yep. Quarterfinals. Yes, sir. All right, we'll see you then. Thank you. All right, that is Bobby Marks right there. Great stuff from Bobby. Okay, so it's interesting, and I think that the Giannis thing, that perspective of Giannis, I mean, they have explored everything. They have tried everything. He said they're hanging on for dear life. Literally, they are hanging on for dear life. I think they've made, just wildly organizational. I get the idea and the concept of if you have a superstar, you keep him for as long as you can. I don't know what to tell you. I think they're making dumb decisions, and I think it started in the summer. Why would you waive Damian Lillard? For what? And stretch him for 5 years. And then you went out and got Miles Turner like you just went out and got Tatum or something, or Jaylen Brown. What was Miles Turner going to do for you that was going to be so different? I don't want to spend, this entire time talking Bucks. I don't, but they've been. You won an NBA championship with Giannis Antetokounmpo. You already won. You're already the good guy. If you're Giannis, don't stop saying, and I agree with Bobby, what Bobby's trying to say about Giannis doesn't want to be perceived as a bad guy and almost asking for a trade. Brother, you've given every indication that you don't want to be in Milwaukee, or that the only way you want to be in Milwaukee is if you're competing for a championship. They're not going to compete for a championship. So it's been kind of interesting to watch unfold, but none of it to me. I think Milwaukee, it's just a matter of time. I think they should have made a trade last summer rather than waiting till this upcoming summer, because he will be in the final year of his contract and he will have all the leverage. So we'll see what eventually happens on that front. I don't know if I have any more. I think I had something else with Giannis, but there's too many other things that I want to hit on. And I do want to kind of stay on the Lakers stuff. What Bobby Marks said right there about would the Lakers have enough assets to go get him? And it would probably cost you Austin Reaves, and it would possibly cost you pick swaps. And now you have LeBron's contract, Giannis's contract, you have Luka's contract. I think one thing we do know, the LeBron contract will come off the books at the end of this season. Obviously, if you can pair up Luka and there was do I have it here? There was an article. Did I write this down here? There was an article that I was looking at earlier that basically had said something to the effect of the Lakers, of course, as any team out there would ask about, is Giannis available? Is there a path to get him? Can he demand a trade to the Lakers? That's probably the only way that it happens. So I don't want to just, hit on something that we don't really feel like anything's going to happen within the next week or month or whatever the case is. So I'm going to kind of leave the Giannis story as is. But interesting stuff there from Bobby Marks. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments, and then we'll keep things rolling. Again, shout out again to Bobby Marks for making some time and joining the show. Good stuff from him. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the comments here, and then I got a couple of other topics that I want to hit on. Slee thinks this is LeBron's last year. Not necessarily his last year, but I will tell you, I don't think he's making $52 million again for the Lakers. I don't think he's making $52 million again for the Lakers. I think the days of LeBron making that type of money with the Lakers is done. I do think that. So we'll see what happens. I could be wrong, but that's what I do think. To be honest, LeBron is slowing down the Lakers from succeeding. Give LeBron a month. Let's see what LeBron looks like in a month. I think the man has deserved in his career the way he takes care of his body, his reputation, how good he's been for so long. Give the man a month. Give him 30 days. Give him 15 games, 20 games before we start deciding what LeBron looks like or what LeBron will be the rest of the season. That's not me trying to tell you that LeBron it's been a rough watch the last couple of games. Even though yesterday, obviously, was able to get the 11 dimes, the 11 assists. I think that's amazing. But he's just hasn't looked like LeBron. 4 of 17 from the field as well. Okay, I got a couple things. That LeBron's streak ended, so I do want to hit on that. Before I do so, we got to give love to one of our partners. So shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Brad and I were texting about the Lakers game last night. We're texting this morning about the game last night. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. That's the website that you can go to for an absolutely free consultation. He could help anybody in the state of California. You want an example of some of his work recently in the last couple of months? Just over a couple of months ago, an auto insurance company made a $1.25 million offer to one of Brad's clients whose case was going to trial in Palm Springs. After Brad Wallace selected the jury and delivered his opening statement, the insurance company decided to pay Brad's full $2 million demand before the first witness was called to the stand. You want to know why? Because a lot of these insurance companies, they don't want to pay out. They want to give you the least amount of money possible. But when they know they're going up against Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, all right. We can't cut any corners on this one. Brad Wallace makes sure to take care of his clients, make sure that they get the absolute most. You got so many different injury attorneys in the state of California that are screaming for your attention. Brad Wallace, a little bit different, kind of a little bit more behind the scenes, a little bit more grassroots, a little bit more organic. Somebody that I've known for 6 years. So I'll just keep it simple here. If you need an injury attorney, you got one of the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. And obviously somebody that supports the channel. Okay, so last night something happened. LeBron James did not get to 10 points. I got a couple of quotes that I want to read off of this as well. LeBron last night, his historic NBA streak ended. 1,297 consecutive games with at least 10 points came to an end yesterday. He had 8 points. What a bum. That streak was going all the way back to 2007. He had 10 or more points. Let me read a quote here, post-game from LeBron. This is the best way. If it had to end, the perfect ending for the streak is tonight. It's literally who I am. That's who I am. It's always been about how can I win the game? How can I make the right play and win the game? That streak just happened. So LeBron, honestly, almost sounded excited that that's how the streak ended. And I think a lot of people were giving LeBron praise and credit last night, as they should have, because of how the streak ended. LeBron ended, I'm doing the post-game show last night, and I was talking about there's certain players, it's in their DNA. It was in Kobe's DNA to take an 18-foot fadeaway with 2 guys on him. That was in his DNA. It's almost like as the second defender was coming, that's when Kobe was like, even better. This will be an even better poster. This will be an even better photo when I hit nothing but nylon. Michael Jordan, it was in their DNA to take those shots and to hit those shots. Not to say that they never passed the ball or they never made the right decision or anything like that, but it was in their DNA to do that. For Magic and LeBron, it was in their DNA to say, I got a second defender coming my way. I'm going to make that extra pass. It's in their DNA. So I do think it is poetic that the way that streak ended the way it did. Now, something, if you guys remember, earlier in the week, I said something. I said, I don't know if it was late last week or early in the week. I said that all these streaks no longer matter. They don't matter. I don't care about the streaks. And frankly, I didn't care that on Monday night, LeBron was taking a three because he had 7 points and they're getting their asses kicked by the Phoenix Suns. And he extended that streak just another game or whatever the case is. It's like, look, if it ain't happening naturally and you're down by 20 or 25, I don't care about this streak. I think it's actually a good thing that the streak is out of the way. I think it's a good thing that now we kind of just go back to when you're talking about LeBron James. The only thing that should matter with LeBron, the only thing that should matter about the Lakers, are you improving your record? Where are you in the Western Conference? Are the Lakers making another move to go try to make a run in the playoffs? They're 16-5. Records like that no longer matter. Now, it doesn't mean it's not impressive. It doesn't mean that that streak will never be broken because it won't be broken. It doesn't mean that LeBron having a streak like that since 2007 should not be appreciated, should not be respected, and we should not kind of reflect on it. But my point is, at this stage of LeBron's career, all those streaks don't matter anymore. They just don't matter anymore. No one's breaking any of those streaks. LeBron has already built his resume as great as he can. The only thing that matters now is, can you stack up some W's? LeBron made the right play last night. And you know what? He could have forced a shot at the buzzer and maybe tried taking a 3 or a 2, and it was contested. And you know what? If he misses that shot, he probably would have been crucified that he was more concerned about getting his streak and continuing his streak than going to try to get a W. I agree with what LeBron said. That ain't in his DNA. LeBron has been criticized in his career for not taking that final shot because he's like, yeah, why would I take that final shot? I got Shane Battier's open when I'm in Miami. Kyrie Irving's open when I'm in Cleveland. I don't know, name some players on the Lakers over the last 5, 6, 7 years. I'm just going to make the right play. And it is poetic that that's how it ended. So listen, I think we got to appreciate the streak. I think all these records that LeBron is breaking on a night in, night out basis, appreciate them. But I think the Lakers are also in a position where it's about winning. You're 16-5. You're playing some good basketball. All that other stuff kind of doesn't matter. And the beauty for LeBron is nobody's going to break these streaks and these records anyways. All right, let me look at some of the comments here. Let's keep rolling here. This is a stupid comment, but I know it comes. I mean, it's somebody that doesn't want to give love to a player. I appreciate LeBron for the championship, but if he plays like this the rest of the season, he's going to have to take a major pay cut or retire. Guys, I don't think LeBron will be getting another major contract from the Lakers where he's making $50 million plus. I don't. Remember, the Lakers didn't just offer him. This was him opting into his contract. Says he's not a clutch player. I mean, unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. You know, I'm not even going to highlight some of these. They're actually comical. If I could be honest with you, they're actually very, very, they're funny to read some of the comments. Guys, just appreciate some things. Damn. Sometimes it's like people, they go to a restaurant and they got just a badass steak that just came out. And they take their first bite. And instead of appreciating the food that's right there on their plate, they're like, it's too cold in here. Shut up. Enjoy your steak. All right. I don't know if that's a good example. But man, Sometimes we can't just enjoy what's in front of us. All right, let me see a couple more here. Talk about haters. Talk about haters. Eat your damn steak and shut the F up. Okay? Nobody cares that the music's maybe a little bit too loud. Nobody cares. Enjoy your damn food. All right, let's keep going here. We got a lot of other topics here. By the way, I saw this from Eric Pincus. Let me see if I could find this. You know what? No, I'm gonna wait on that. Do I wait on that? No, I'll read it. Eric Pincus. People around the NBA believe got Lakers Celtics coming up as well, so we got to talk a little bit about that. Enjoy your damn food, okay? Appreciate the moment. Can you just appreciate the moment? People around NBA believe this is LeBron James' last season with LA. I'm going to read something Eric Pincus said. While general manager Rob Pelinka said before this season that he'd like James to retire with the Lakers, the buzz around the NBA is that this will be his final season in Los Angeles, whether he decides to continue playing or call it a career. So the reason why I read that is, and maybe this is going to be for a different conversation, and to be honest with you, this kind of sparks me trying to bring Eric Pincus on. I love Pincus, and I love having some of the conversations that we have. I got Trevor Lane coming up on Tuesday. Maybe I'll try to book Eric Pincus for Thursday, kind of get a little separation there. It'll be the game after the Lakers take on the Spurs, so we could talk about that as well. So I'll work on that. But I think this just kind of more goes along the lines of, I think the writing's on the wall. He ain't getting another $52 million contract. I think that's the writing on the wall, at least not with the Lakers. Maybe he goes somewhere else and decides that he can make that happen somewhere else. Okay, Lakers got the Celtics tonight. What else did I miss here? Did I miss some other stuff here? By the way, I got to give a shout out here. We do got a new member. That's Philip, who's joining an MVP member. Thank you, Philip. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being a member. I greatly appreciate that. If you're interested in being a member, there's no pressure at all. But if you want to be a member, it's $3 a month. It's a great way to support the channel. And if you're watching on the desktop, or if you're watching on your phone, or maybe a little bit later you're watching on audio version, whatever the case is, if you just click join, you can join through that. And I appreciate everybody who is members. We did a member show yesterday. So Lakers got the Celtics coming up tonight. We'll do Lakers Celtics, and then we'll kind of start our weekend preview, and then we'll call it a day. Shout out to the new member there. So Lakers got the Celtics tonight. I still didn't see, and again, I'm assuming Luka isn't playing, and I think some people were saying yesterday that Rui had said that he's not going to play. But until I kind of see official, and right now when I go to injuries, it still just has the Luka with the Lakers piece. Let me go on Twitter here real quick. Sometimes we get these updates from Lakers with some of their communications, or with their communications department. See if I just see anything here. 34 minutes ago. Let's see what we got here. All right, yeah. So I still got the one about the Raptors. I don't have anything since then, so we'll wait on that till it's official. But I don't think most people are not expecting Luka to be playing. Tough game again against the Celtics tonight. I had mentioned this, that I think if the Lakers go 2-1 on this road trip, I really do think that's a good road trip for these 3 games that they're going to play. 3 games in 4 nights, traveling all the way across to the East Coast, and then obviously traveling back Toronto, Boston, and Philadelphia. And if you look at the standings right now, just to give you an idea where the Celtics are sitting, Boston's 13-9 on the season. Toronto was 15-7 going into yesterday's game. They had won 8 of their last 10, and Boston kind of a similar team. They've won 8 of their last 10. They've won 3 in a row. They're going to be playing a second of a back-to-back. They played the Wizards yesterday. If I'm correct, I think they played that game without Jaylen Brown. So, they were maybe a little bit more strategic with that game. So he didn't play in the game yesterday. Obviously, we know Tatum is out. Boston's a good team. Now, I don't think they're going to come out of the East, but I'll tell you what Boston is, and this is no surprise. This is what their franchise is doing. They play hard. They play tough. They're well coached. They're well ran. If you're playing for the Boston Celtics, then there's going to be a certain kind of pedigree that you bring to the table. And no surprise here that the Boston Celtics are sitting at 13-9, even without Jason Tatum. So tough one tonight. It will be a tough game. I had some of my doubts yesterday against the Toronto Raptors. I'm not going to say anything about tonight. I'm just going to try to enjoy the game and see what the Lakers are able to do. But it's going to be a tough game. Peyton Pritchard is good. Anthony Simons is having a good season for them. Jaylen Brown is an absolute stud. I think underappreciated around the league. And now maybe getting a little bit more appreciation just based off of what he's been able to do without Tatum. So tonight, a tough game against the Celtics. I think it's going to be fun to watch, and certainly going to be a good game to kick back and enjoy. So Lakers and the Celtics coming up. It's a 4 p.m. tip-off tonight. So just a heads up. If you want a complete preview of that game, by the way, just go to the channel, and Sammy put up a preview video. I think he put it up last night, but I know it's live now if you want that full preview video. Okay, before I get to NBA news and before I get to the weekend preview, let me read a couple of these comments here, and then we'll keep things going. Let's get another one here. Patrick, thank you for the 10 spot, brother. Thank you. Very, very kind of you. Patrick, I got a coffee this morning. I think my coffee was like, how much was my coffee? Maybe $3.75? Just a black coffee. I just went with a nice black coffee on a Friday morning. So you basically just bought me about 2 or 3 coffees. You bought me 3 coffees there, brother. I appreciate you. Crazy. First, it's LeBron will mess up the chemistry. Then it's he only cares about his stats. What the haters will come up with. It's a great show. Keep it up. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming on. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. You know, some of the comments I'm being, and this isn't just even the comments here. Some of the stance that people have on LeBron are just stupid. They're dumb. It makes me think that it demolishes somebody's knowledge about the game of basketball the way they just hate on him. And here's the funny thing. I don't even like spending my effort defending him. There are a lot of times I criticize LeBron as well for whatever reason. Now I try to stay on the court. You know, what somebody does off the court, that's none of my business. That's their personal life. But they're dumb comments. Don't make any sense. Thank you for the super. I appreciate it. Listen, for a podcast, I'm sitting here, I talk an hour a day. It's not terrible content. I could use some of the content. I appreciate it. I just don't get the angles. The angles make no sense. Appreciate this man. For the love of God, like there's only a few players you're ever going to watch in the NBA, in the history of the NBA, that's going to be as good as LeBron James. Just watch the damn game. Enjoy it because he's going to be gone. And when he's gone, then you're going to look back and say, oh, man, I should have appreciated that. I had those problems sometimes with Kobe. Kobe, I didn't really truly get to appreciate him, or I would watch the Shaq and Kobe feud, whatever the case is. And there were times when the guy was going towards the latter part of his career, and I'm like, I should have enjoyed this guy more. I should have appreciated his games more. Just appreciate the game. These are top players that we're never going to get a chance to see what LeBron has done throughout his career. Is he still performing the same way he was 5 years ago? Of course he's not. He's 41. What do you want the man to do? He's 41. Appreciate it. You could still bitch and complain about things. You could still say he looks old. You can still say he's making too much money. But for the love of God, every single thing he does or the Lakers do, you blame it on LeBron. That's just dumb. Those are the same people complaining about everything in life. By the way, no, wait. I think I might be talking about myself. I mean, I'm the one at the gym complaining about other people all the time. What happened recently at the gym? I know exactly what happened recently at the gym. I'll save that one for the end. We'll move on. Tell them, see, these LeBron haters are embarrassing. I will always back any player wearing the purple and gold. Let us not forget, if it wasn't for LeBron, we would have had number 18. we would not have had number 18 hanging up. Well, let me say this, and we'll get off this because I don't want to spend the entire show just talking about it. First off, thank you for the 10 spot. I appreciate both of you very much. Patrick and Eli Ford here. I appreciate you guys very much for the 10 spot. Yeah, I think people are there. It's more about convenience. When it's convenient to say something to help your argument, but you don't want to bring up some of the other stuff. Where were the Lakers before LeBron got here? Where were they? Where was the organization going? They've been relevant for 8 years because of LeBron. Period. There's no sentence after that. That's it. The book ended right there. They've been relevant for 8 years because of LeBron. Now what happens moving forward? They got Luka Doncic. A whole new chapter begins, but they have been relevant for 8 years. All right. Got all those in. Thank you for the supers. I appreciate it. And for anybody else still bitching and complaining about LeBron, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Go bitch and complain. Go stare at the wall and go complain. Go talk to the wall because nobody really cares. All right, let's keep going here. I got a couple things around the NBA that I want to hit on here. So let's start doing that. And then I got the weekend preview, and then we're going to get out of here. All right. What do I got here? Where's your notes, Slee? Where are your notes, Slee? NBA games. Good games tonight, by the way. Good games coming up tonight. So you got Lakers and the Celtics. Badass game. I don't have to sell you guys on Lakers and the Celtics. I also shouldn't have to sell you guys on the Orlando Magic and the Miami Heat. I like that game. That game's coming up tonight as well. Okay, a couple other games. Denver at Atlanta. Let's go, Hawks. Let's go, Atlanta. Huge Hawks fan. Spurs taking on the Cavs. Guys, really good games in the NBA. Cavs Nation. All right, what was the other game? There was another good game I saw here. Suns and the Rockets. So a lot of good games. Mavericks Thunder, if you want to see little Cooper Flag, Anthony Davis, and the Thunder win by 17. So if you want to see that, that's going on as well. So some good games around the NBA. I saw this as well. Chris Paul, some potential destinations for Chris Paul, potential landing spots. By the way, I really don't care about the Chris Paul story. I don't. I've heard, I keep hearing everybody making a big deal about the Chris Paul story. I don't think it, if they're dropping Chris Paul, there's a reason why they're dropping him. He's probably, his production is here and his voice is up here. And they're probably like, yeah, we're weighing our options here. We're good. Let's move on. Was it the perfect way to do it? No. Is there probably more of a backstory? Sure. Potential landing spots for Chris Paul. Some of the moves were interesting. Dallas, okay, maybe a spot there. Minnesota, I don't know why Minnesota stands out to me. Now, they already got Mike Conley. So, you're going to have two old point guards. Orlando's on that list. Atlanta's on that list, and the Memphis Grizzlies. So this was an article in The Athletic. Guys, he's also old and he's not productive. So wherever he goes, you're bringing him in for certain reasons. I don't know if some of the reasons you're bringing him in for are basketball reasons. He was good for San Antonio last year, but, he's old too. Okay, let's get to the weekend preview here. Let's get our banner up here. If you don't know, we'll share this with everybody that the weekend preview is presented by the Wallace firm. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. So shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Okay, here's what we got for the weekend preview. NFL fan this weekend. Oh, we got some NFL games. Got some NFL games this weekend, everybody. I got 3 here that I highlighted that I think are going to be good games. Okay. Colts taking on the Jaguars. Now, I think Indianapolis has lost a couple games in a row. 8-4 versus 8-4 in the AFC. I like it. It's a good matchup. It's going to be a fun matchup. Okay, probably, I think the best game on the schedule over the weekend, Bears at the Packers. 9-3 Bears, Packers 8-3-1. I can't stand the ties. I hate looking at the standings and I see a tie. 8-3-1 are the Packers. That game's 1:25 on Fox. So you got a good game in the morning. You got a good game in the afternoon. And then another really good game, Monday night game, December 8th, or this Monday night, Eagles at the Chargers. Eagles at the Chargers, 8-4 versus 8-4. Another good game. So we got a couple really good games coming up. This one I thought would be bigger and better. Texans and the Chiefs, but the Chiefs are struggling. They're 6-6, so I don't know how big of a game it is, but that's a Sunday night game on NBC Peacock. College football here real quick. BYU, number 4 in the country, taking on Texas Tech, number 4. Number 11 versus number 4. All right, number 11 versus number 4. So there's a big-time game right there. Georgia, Alabama, number 3 versus number 9. Indiana, Ohio State, number 1 versus number 2. Obviously, these are the championship games for the SEC, for the Big Ten. So you got a lot of these big matchups that are coming up over the weekend. Georgia, Alabama is at 1. Indiana, Ohio State is at 5. We are stacked with some good games over the weekend. And then the last thing I'll mention here, because you guys know I'm an MLS guy. STFC gets a team, and then all of a sudden I'm like breaking down MLS. Inter Miami versus Vancouver Whitecaps for the MLS Cup Championship. It's a Saturday game this Saturday at 11:30, so it's tomorrow. Fun weekend in sports. Really, really good weekend in sports. Lakers will have a game by the time we all talk again, which we'll talk tonight after the Lakers take on the Boston Celtics. We'll talk in the post-game show. But Lakers will have another game coming up against the Philadelphia 76ers. That's on Sunday. So game Friday and a game Sunday. Let me read a couple of the comments before we get out of here. Any more whiners out there? Freaking whining all the time. Slee, give Caleb some respect. Bro, he gets respect. 9-3. Yeah, you're definitely getting respect for that. Awesome weekend for sports. Damn, Slee, our Aztecs couldn't get to a Mountain West. Yeah, they choked last week. Got to win that game in New Mexico. They choked. Really sucks, too, by the way, because that would have been cool to see them turn their season around and get a chance to do what they did. Let's see what else we have. Another comment or two. All right, that's all I got. That's all I got. Guys, thank you for being a part of the show today. Thank you for being a part of the show the entire week. Really, really fun game or a really, really fun game last night. And then hopefully we get another good game tonight when the Lakers take on the Boston Celtics. So thank you for being a part of the show. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday. And I will see you guys tonight after Lakers and the Celtics. Thank you, everybody.